Welcome back to the morning show on Tobago Updates Television. It's now 7:48 a.m. So if you're making it to work for 8 a.m., you have 12 minutes. Remember, you also have to drop the children off to school. So be safe on the nation's roads. You're already late if you're going to make it for 8 this morning. So just remember to be safe. You want to get there, right? The important thing is getting there, so be safe this morning. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we continue this morning conversations in studio with our guest, and we're speaking with Senator Lawrence Hislop. He's also the Public Relations Officer of the Tobago Council of the PNM. They recently concluded their elections, and we want to talk a little bit about that this morning, as well as another very interesting topic. So you want to stay with us for this one. Good morning and welcome.
Good morning, Adana. Thanks for having me. It is good to be here. Good morning, Tobago and Trinidad and Tobago.
Of course, no better place to be on a Monday morning.
That's right.
Right. So you recently concluded your internal elections, and you had your little convention there yesterday, and, interesting, conversations and topics being discussed there. Tell me a little bit about the outcomes of the elections and the positions that were filled and, stuff like that.
Well, what I could share with Tobago and by extension national public is that the PNM has always done its business in a particular manner. We take pride in the fact that we have a robust constitution that governs how we operate our business. And so this year, the 2-year positions on the executive were up for contest. We had our process being managed by the Election Supervisory Committee that was chaired by Mr. Dinoon. And there were 13 positions that were up for grabs for the 2-year positions. We had 4 positions that were contested by multiple persons. And those 4 positions were the Treasurer, Research Officer, Education Officer, and Youth Officer. And the results that came is that the position of Treasurer was retained by Mr. Maxwell Roberts with 70% of the vote. The education, we have a new education officer, a young lady, Shamika Topping, with 54% of the vote. Mr. Kurt Wilson returned as elections officer with 69% of the vote, and Mr. Quincy Trim returned as well as the youth officer with 54. That was the one that was closest in terms of contest. You had 45% to 54%.
46 to 54.
46, yeah.
A little sharp this morning on the math.
You are sharper than I am this morning, yeah. So 46 to 54 in terms of the breakdown for youth officer.
Awesome. And this, of course, is in preparation. We know we're heading into elections soon,
yes.
THA elections, and so we're getting ready for that. I mean, there's so many things happening right now on the political landscape. How do you think PNM is positioned as you prepare for this in this period in getting ready for a THA election?
The PNM is always positioned very well. We have contested every single election since independence. We have fielded all candidates in all electoral districts in the Tobago House of Assembly and all constituencies in the general. So the PNM is always positioned well for any elections. That's what the party is about. The party is about people. The party is about governance, and the party is about also being ready for elections. So when you ask how well we are positioned, especially coming out of this election, you get a sense of a resurgence. You get a sense of a momentum that is building. And so the party is well positioned.
And so coming out of the last THA election, we know how that ended for the PNM after having a long reign in the Tobago House of Assembly. And so we saw that big, I would call it a defeat, it was. And so you've had that time to sit at your table to meet. Have you identified the ways where you went wrong or identified the things that were your weaknesses? And have you been able to correct those things and build and to strengthen your party in preparation for this election?
Because what we've been doing, I must say that the party has been doing its work. One of the key things that was done at the convention yesterday, because yesterday was not only the culmination of the weekend for the elections, but it was also a special convention to bring to the membership, because the highest form of authority in the party is a party at convention. And so it was a special convention to share with the membership of the party's platform. And so that is what was shared yesterday, and this is the work of a policy committee being chaired by the political leader. And so the party has been doing its work in preparing itself, in looking at its shortfalls, its weaknesses, and looking at those areas where it could strengthen, build on the foundation that's already there, the strengths that are there, and making the necessary corrections as needed. And so I would say that within the last 2 years that we've been in opposition, in the minority, in Tobago, that the party has been doing its work. The party has been looking at all the challenges we faced, and as to what was the cause for the steep learning curve in December. So when you're faced with these kind of circumstances, you don't count yourself as defeated, but you have to learn from what took place. And if it's one institution that has proven time and time again that it can learn and change and operate based on what it faces, is the PNM. Because the PNM came back from 33-3. When the PNM lost it 33-3, everybody said that the PNM was dead. And the PNM came back into governance the following election.
So it is that you're taking copious notes of what is happening now, and you are, I mean, there are so many things, right? And you, as you said, you're come back from 33-3, and then now you have this situation here now where you have to come back from 14-1.
Yeah.
And of course, politics is something that you really have to pay attention to, and you have to know how to play the game, for lack of a better term, this morning. And so, I mean, looking at the space now and how the assembly is being managed by the new set of politicians that are there, what is the PNM? What is the cutting edge for the PNM to say, well, okay, we're coming to take back because we have seen where we went wrong and how they were able to take these 14 seats from us. And now we're preparing for an election. What is the thing that defines you from the group that is there now that will say, well, yes, we are coming back stronger and better?
Well, what I could tell you, one of the things that define us from the crop that is there now in governance is good governance. Because I'm sure that Tobagonians, the majority of Tobagonians are truly concerned about what passes for governance on the island right now. And the political leader said something at our meeting last week Sunday, and even at the convention yesterday, that there are some things that if the PNM was in governance in Tobago, by now would have been completed. So if I just wanted to just touch on a couple of those, he spoke about the Charlottesville Community Center that has been languishing, and there was a guarantee that if the PNM were in office right now, that Charlottesville Community Center and Pavilion would have been completed. The Goodwood Pavilion would have been completed. Even the Bertil Sinclair Indoor Facility at Backlet would have been completed. And we can also tell you that we would not be in a situation today where contractors in Tobago and are clamoring for work, and the place is just stagnant. We could guarantee that would not have taken place. And so what we've proven over the years is that the PNM has the ability to govern in a particular manner that is for everybody, that governs with a sense of, with a steady head on shoulders. We don't just knee-jerk reactions to things that happen, and you just put out stuff and have to retract it and run afoul of regional bodies and international bodies and environmentalists, those kinds of things. We operate in a manner that is sober, that is intelligent, and that's how the PNM has proven itself over and over again.
Talking about running in a way that is sober and intelligent, we're talking now about, as we're preparing for the THA elections, the leadership of the PNM Tobago Council. Is there an internal election going to take place soon? When is it due, and how is that?
We just came out of an internal election for 2-year positions, which means that there are positions that were not up for grabs, that are 4-year positions based on our constitution. So the positions that are 4-year positions, political leader, chairman, and general secretary, those positions were not up for grabs. Those
Right.
positions now come to the fore in 2026,
Right.
which is a 4-year term. So it is only then that we could even have the conversation about leadership election and so on. So the political leader was not up for grabs this time around, the chairman nor the general secretary. Those are 4-year positions.
Okay, awesome. So just bringing some information and, just putting things into perspective there for our viewers as we continue this conversation. So we're going back to the point that PNM now is sober, level-headed, think things through before they take action.
Sure.
All right, so we're going to see how that is going to roll out as we prepare for elections in 2026, the THA.
But we as I said, what transpired yesterday was the first layer of that in presenting a platform.
That's right.
Which all the policies of the party going forward will be built on. So we don't just come to the population with a catchphrase or a catchline. We show the population how we intend to govern sector by sector. And so that when you get into the election cycle and you then build your manifesto, you're building your manifesto off of something, off of a platform, off of a foundation, which points to all our policies going forward. So that when you get into governance, the population could then hold you responsible based on something you presented, not on a catchline or a whim. So that's the difference between the People's National Movement, how it prepares itself in opposition for governance, how others do it, so that when you get into governance, you see a clear distinction in terms of the way governance is
maintaining that soberness and that level-headedness. Now, I want to talk about an issue that is very public and that recently took place in the chamber.
Yeah.
And we're speaking about a situation where our minority leader walked out of the chamber due to an issue that he considered to be unfortunate and unfair on his behalf. If I recall clearly, what he mentioned even on the platform yesterday at your convention, and he was explaining in his words or in his experience, what had happened is that the motion he sent forward, it was reworded.
Yeah.
To mean something completely different. Now, he also identified that the presiding officer does have the authority to change the wording of the motion. But he's saying that it is changed in such a way that it changed the meaning of the motion. And that, of course, aggravated him and caused him to feel slighted. And so he took that action when he realized that, listen, I'm not going to get the answer. I'm not going to have the discussion on the topic or the conversation I want to have to bring the point home that I'm trying to make. And, of course, walking out now of the chamber and leaving, of course, is having to suspend the sitting as a result of that. I want to talk about that a little bit.
Sure.
So, I mean, yes, we know in his words, they changed, the meaning changed, and so he had to walk out. We're talking about soberness and level-headedness, right? Is this the best approach? I understand human emotion, and I understand when you have a feeling of being slighted, and sometimes you make a reaction or a response to a situation because it is just too much. If you were the person in that position as a member of the PNM representing, how would you do you agree, first of all, with the way he dealt with that situation? And if not, how would you have done it? I know you said yesterday, we're standing with you.
Yes.
And we're with you, we support you 100%. Do you agree with the way he dealt with that situation?
Well, we have to take it back. So yes, I agree with how he dealt with the situation, because the clerk or the minority would have written to the clerk, written to the presiding officer through the clerk, on 2 occasions, based on the information that we have. They were written to have a conversation concerning the motion. There was no response. And so the presiding officer is within her right to make amendments to motions. The minority leader shared what his challenges were, because when you look at where the changes were in the motion, it completely changed the context of the motion. And so the only recourse that the minority leader had, right, let me put it another way. You cannot debate, or you shouldn't be able to move a motion that is not your motion. Because by changing the context of the motion, you are now saying to the minority leader, this is what I want you to say. when the motion, in fact, is the minority leader's motion. So because the minority leader could not debate or move the motion that he placed on the table, the only other recourse that he had in good conscience, his good conscience as he shared, was to not participate. Because we have to bear in mind that when he brings the motion, this goes on the record and it is deemed as the minority leader's motion. And so the only recourse he had based on his conscience and whether for him it was something that he felt comfortable doing, he was also within his right to not participate in the debate, to not participate in moving a motion that basically was not his.
But are there ways to not participate other than walking out of the House?
No, but you see, because it was private members' day, he had to move the motion. The debate could not take place without him moving the motion. So even if he sat and refused to move the motion, the debate would not take place because it is his motion. No one else could move the motion because it was a private member's motion. It was the minority's motion.
This is the PNM supporting the PNM here. You're quite right. You see, the thing is, right? I understand where you're coming from. I understand what you're saying, that if the motion is his,
yes,
and the wording now is no longer his.
Correct.
It's no longer his word. It's no longer his motion.
Correct.
It's no longer what he wants to discuss.
Yes.
And so he cannot move on a motion that does not belong to him.
Correct.
That is not his. He will not bring his points of view, and he will not have the discussions he's going to have.
Correct.
And so, because, as you say, it was a private members' day, and so the motion could not have been moved if he did not agree to move it. And so the course of action is to say, I'm out of here.
Well, the caution, what he did was within his right as a member of the House. Any member of the House could get up and leave respectfully from the House.
Respectfully from the House. Okay. Standing with the PNM standing with the PNM.
No, but we are in full support of our minority leader because of the simple fact that you are seeking to muzzle me. You're seeking to change what I, as a minority leader representing an electoral district, is within my right to say.
And you see, I agree. I understand this. As I said earlier, I understand the fact that what he is trying to move is not what was presented to be moved. So I understand the frustration, because if I have a point to bring across and I'm in a situation where my words are being twisted and presented as though they are my words, there would be cause for...
But it's not even from the standpoint of frustration. It is simply from the standpoint that I have a right to speak in the House within the,
and when your rights are taken
orders,
from you, when you
get frustrated.
That's
but
right.
I don't want us, because you see, when you say from frustration, it means that there is also a negative reaction to frustration. Yeah? But with and that's what usually happens. When you say frustration, it means that you're lashing out in response.
Not necessarily, right. But okay.
But it could be construed as that, as you're lashing out based on something. But the minority leader was within his right to say, this is not what I presented. And so the other thing is that the presiding officer or the House has to cite a standing order. If you amended my motion, you have to cite a standing order that I am in breach of by amending my motion.
And this was not done.
That wasn't done. You didn't say what standing order I breached, but you decided that the wording of the motion, and I want to read it. I want to read.
Before you read it, Senator, when you're saying an amendment has to be made if you're changing the wording, is this across the board, or is it because you've breached a standing order why the presiding officer has the right to change the wording? I just want to get that clear.
So the information I have, even from our parliamentary level, is that when a member submits a motion for debate, the clerk can make adjustments to it in terms of the length, in terms of if words are inflammatory and derogatory and so on. But what is also important and noteworthy in that is that when you're making the changes, you have to also share with the member, have a discussion with the member what the changes are.
Gotcha.
And so because you see, the presiding officer, Speaker of the House, President of the Senate, they have overarching responsibility for the operations within the house. But you also cannot use the house or use your authority to silence members, because members have a right to speak.
I'm with you now. So let's hear that excerpt.
So I just want to, let me just pull it up very quickly. So one of the key things that was changed in one of the whereas in the motion is that the original submission from the minority leader says Sandals Resorts International announced that it was pulling out of this arrangement on 15 January 2019, mainly due to the negative sentiments expressed towards the idea of a Sandals and Beaches resort in Tobago. That is one of the whereas that the minority leader would have submitted. That particular whereas was amended to say Sandals Resorts International announced that it was pulling out of this arrangement on January 15, 2019, therefore denying Tobago the opportunity of the revitalization of its tourism and economic sector. So you see the difference.
It gives a different connotation.
It gives a completely different context, because now you're seeking to say that you're blaming the position of our tourism on Sandals pulling out. And Sandals taking the decision to pull out, and not saying that the reason why Sandals pulled out was because of the negative feedback and Sandals wanting to protect its brand.
Understood. Yeah. And you see, I the thing about it is the discussion part between the two parties, whereas the words were changed, and you're saying that there should have been a discussion and none was had, which again leads to the build-up of the, I would use the word again, frustration, because that is essentially, that is what it is. And of course, we are all humans. We're human. You said yesterday in your convention, I don't think it was you, I think it was the chairman of the
party, Mr. Paul?
No, Mr. Dinoon.
Yes,
he mentioned that nobody is perfect.
Yes.
And so we have human responses to things that happen to us as humans, as we live in a space where humans live. So the frustration there was seen, and understandably so as well. And
but you see,
it's not the first assemblyman to walk out of the chamber.
Because you see, I want to make the point as well that persons are chastising the minority leader for taking a position against what he deemed as. But the House is at a state where we have to be mindful that we don't allow things to snowball. Because one of the things that transpired in the House that should not have transpired in the House is that statement back with AudioGate that was made by the Chief Secretary, where a recording was brought into the chamber, and a recording about senior government officials in Trinidad and Tobago. And bearing in mind that that statement was approved by the presiding officer. So when you have things like that transpiring, and then the said presiding officer is now seeking to silence or to change,
muzzle as
muzzle as the minority leader said, you could understand that the minority leader felt that he needed to make a statement.
Look, politics is a game that you have to have thick skin to play, as we govern people in any local space. I'm speaking with Senator Lawrence Hislop, who's also the PRO of the Tobago Council of the PNM, and we're talking about the internal elections, which recently concluded over the weekend, and also the situation where our minority leader, Assemblyman Kelvon Morris, had to walk out of the chamber due to an incident that took place in terms of changing the context of the motion that he wanted to bring in the House. And so we're having this conversation this morning. I'm telling you, let us pay attention to what is happening in our spaces. Let us pay attention and not before you take a position, understand, all the intricacies that takes place behind the scenes, get to know all the laws, the regulations, the rules, your rights, even as citizens here in Trinidad and Tobago, primarily in our space here in Tobago, before we take a position and stand up for what you think is correct. We all have the right to do so. And so that is the situation coming out there. Thank you so much, Senator, for being here with us this morning and for bringing that insight to us. And as we wrap the morning show here on Tobago Updates Television, this is not where we end our programming. We head on over to Tobago Notes, and then we go on over to GMT with Natalie Seeley. So stay with us as we continue our programming. And this, of course, is your opportunity to share the live. Share the live. Share the live.